What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves. Hi, what's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to another great episode of the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony, and we have some amazing topics that we're going to discuss with you tonight. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead. Our producer, Mark Lee, so we can get this ball rolling and get started.
Sounds like a plan to me. We'll get the ball rolling and everything like that. Hope that you are doing well. It has been hot as all get out here in Durham, North Carolina. So we've been dealing with hot weather in like the 90s, feels like 100 in temperatures and all along those lines. So it's been just way too hot. I was actually hoping so by the time this airs, it might even be trimmed to have that lovely haircut and everything like that. But it's been too hot to even go to the barber. But I'm going to try to get to the barber I think I've got an appointment on tomorrow and everything like that. But it's been much too hot and all along those lines. But definitely it has been some good things happening and all along those lines. I hope that you are doing well also.
I am doing amazing considering the weather here is hot as well. It was hot in Louisiana, hot in Houston, hot in Atlanta. Pretty much hot everywhere that I've gone, and the weather is just coming and coming and coming. We have these hurricanes out there. The hot weather, we're in rainy season, so it is definitely a scorcher. It is hot, so yeah, just gonna be interesting to see how the weather plays out. I know that it's been raining here a lot in DC. So in the morning time, sometimes it rains and sometimes it rains in the afternoon. So I know that we're in hurricane season and it's rainy season. So I'm assuming that has something with it. Definitely hot here. Definitely.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been hot, no doubt about that. You mentioned hurricane season. It is definitely hurricane season, even here in North Carolina and everything like that. And I know that you have original roots in Louisiana, and of course we know Louisiana is part of the Hurricane Alley and everything like that. So, what advice would you give to people as they are coping with hurricanes and all along those lines, and maybe even some advice for heat-related stuff? Because I know one thing they've been telling people to do is stay hydrated and stay in safe environments.
Yeah.
I even had a
definitely need to stay hydrated. Definitely need to stay, with the liquids and the fluids. And I've been telling people, especially older people, if you can get liquid IV, it's like Pedialytes, electrolytes, and things like that or whatever. But it works a little faster and it works a little better than the children. So that would be one thing. Drink water. If you don't like cold water, drink room temperature, mix fruit in it so that you're definitely staying hydrated and nourished, and kind of stay out of the heat in the sun, because I mean, as you age and as you get older, your body changes, so we're not able to withstand the heat like we were when we were younger. And even with the babies and the toddlers, and keep them hydrated as well. Keep them out of the heat. I just read that a father was arrested the other day because he left his kids in the car at 125 degrees outside for children and things like that. Please make sure you're checking your cars. Please make sure that, you're not leaving your kids out there. And I know some of y'all are some pet lovers. Make sure your pets are hydrated. They're where they're supposed to be. And they're, you're doing what you need to do for them as well. So
it's interesting you say that, because I was actually one of my
advice that I can give to you is listen to the weather channels. Huh?
I said it's interesting you say that, because one of my neighbors in this apartment complex and everything, ironically, they live in an apartment that Zach used to live in and all along those lines, but they were have a bulldog, and I think that's a bulldog and everything like that. But the bulldog was out on the porch on its leash and was taking a evening siesta a couple of days ago and everything like that. But they did look like they had left a water bottle out there so that the dog didn't get too parched, because like I said, it's been hot. Even if you're under the shade of your porch and everything, there's still some hot temperatures out there. You might not be roaming it, whether you're a canine or a person and everything like that. So I was glad that that particular owner had left them with a water container that they could lap up their water. But also, like I said, when I walked by, they were taking a nap, enjoying their nap and everything like that. You know, I'm an animal lover. I was actually getting a ride from a friend of mine, and they almost were laughing. You would have been laughing too, because they were giving me a ride in their the young lady, and they gave me a ride in their big truck type vehicle back to my apartment. And I happened to see out of the corner of my eye that they were about ready to possibly hit a little rabbit. So I told them to slow down, and they were like, "What? That rabbit? That rabbit better be worried about me? I'm not worried about that rabbit and everything." So they were not having that much sympathy for the rabbit. But the rabbit did make it across the street and did not get hit, at least not in that particular time.
Well, that's amazing that the rabbit didn't get hit and the dog was there. And so, y'all better take care of your pets and things like that. The only thing that I will get close to a pet is a toy, a road pet. As far as, like actual animals being in my space, we cannot have that happen because I'm highly allergic to them. So I'm glad the dog was okay and he was chillaxing and he was having a good old time out there, enjoying his little siesta and things like that. So you also asked me a two-part question about
hurricane preparation, because it is hurricane season.
I suggest that you stock up on dry goods, things that's not going to spoil, instantaneously. Make sure you listen to the weather. If they say evacuate, please evacuate, because I know some people are like, oh, well, they got it wrong and, things like that or whatever. Please listen to the weather forecast, listen to the warnings and things like that. It's better to be safe than it is to be sorry. So make sure you're taking heed and you're listening to the advice of the weather people and, anybody that has, like the information out there, because I know that you can't wait till the last minute to try to get on the highway. It's going to be a parking lot. It's going to be jam-packed. If you have a generator, make sure you get gas for your generator. Make sure all of that is sustaining, and make sure that your car stays on full so that if you are in need of, an evacuation or escape route, you are prepared in that regard. If you don't know your escape route, please make sure you get it and understand multiple ways where you can get out of town if you need to.
Yep, you definitely got to learn how to get out of town. I actually went to an event. It was ironically on my birthday on July 1st and everything like that. And when I went to the event, it was some young lady that's also a filmmaker here in the area. Mm-hmm. She was trying to encourage people to be prepared for all this madness that we've got going on in the world. I have no green thumb. I've got a plant that I think is barely surviving, and two plants that have not made it because, like I said, I am not a green thumb person like you're not a pet person, but I did try, and like I said, I think one of them is at least hanging in there from what I can tell and everything like that, but two of them, one definitely did not make it, and the other one is maybe barely hanging on and everything like that. So I know I'm not a pet person, but she was suggesting because of the nature of the prices and some of the things that person that's sitting in the White House is doing, that we all might want to consider getting into the survival mode and having a garden. I think she was even thinking about organizing a community pantry and a number of other things, because she was like, with the way that the world is going, with everything going on with the immigrants and everything like that, you might want to be prepared to deal with the madness and everything like that. So she was suggesting that many of us in the Black and brown community get a garden, whether we are avid gardeners or not. And I know that in one of our back and forth, you mentioned your pops being a gardener and everything like that. But she was saying that we might want to have some of those basic necessities that we can get at a moment's notice, because there's no guarantee that they're going to be in the grocery stores if some of this madness that we're in the middle of continues.
Right, exactly. So I would definitely, gardening is not my thing. I don't want to do it. I don't want no parts of it. But if I had to do it, I would do it. I did it when I was younger. I did it as a child, and things like that or whatever. But I did buy gardens, the tiered gardens, so he can plant, a lot of things. I bought him like three of those. So he is excited about getting out there doing the garden and things like that, because that's one of his favorite pastimes is to garden. And like your friend said, we need to look at other ways to sustain ourselves if something were to happen. I was having a conversation about this very thing with my brother over the weekend, and he was saying how since they are deported, and a lot of the and other people vaccinated, that the fruit has taken a nosedive, and the fruit is not what it used to be in the stores, and things like that or whatever. So I mean, people are saying that they want one thing, but in all actuality, if we are to deport all of these people, who's going to pick that fruit? Who's going to be out there um doing things like that? I know a lot of the people that I know are not going to be out there. And so when you put things into play and put things into actions, there are viable consequences, and you have to be ready to deal with those viable consequences. I know the construction business has taken a nosedive. Other businesses where we had a lot of high population of Hispanic workers, they have taken a nosedive. And I was watching a few months ago on TikTok where this white lady said that they voted for Trump, and they were saying, deep things like that. Now they have no workers, and they're on the brink of bankrupting their company. And she was like, she regretted voting the way that she did. But you have buyer's remorse. But at the end of the day, you cannot go back and change your vote. This is who you voted for. This is what you voted for. So now you have to live with the consequences, and you have to deal with it. And that's just the bottom line, period.
Yep, and a lot of people are having to deal with those consequences, facing those consequences, and all along those lines. But it also looks like they are targeting certain institutions. I understand, and I'm sure that you'll have some thoughts around this, that they would like to get rid of the Department of Education. And as you know, I come from the background of media, and particularly a station, or actually a couple of stations that were NPR affiliated, and at least one that was Pacifica affiliated, and everything like that. But definitely, it seems like they are targeting NPR and PBS out of the Washington area, and even the Kennedy Center, and a number of other things. Matter of fact, there is a young lady that just took a job as a provost here in Duke University, which I'm not that far from, and everything that came from the Kennedy Center, because one of the main board members, I think, was let go of, and everything like that, and was connected to Duke, was protecting one of his own. So he got her a job down here because they did not like what was going on with the Kennedy Center with some of his appointments and everything like that. So I don't know some of your thoughts around the way that they seem to be targeting PBS and NPR, which we know is the way some of our kids get educated, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But a lot of people did get educated off of Zoom and Sesame Street, and even Nova and some of the other shows like that.
Well, the thing about it is, a lot of those programmings are going to hurt people in rural communities, because they rely on, a lot of those programming stations and things like that or whatever. Because what people fail to realize is we're still in a digital divide, and that means that we still have areas and communities without, proper internet, without proper cable, without proper, broadcasting systems and things. They had the almost 200 fatalities with the children who were killed at the campsite, and that was sheer negligence and ignorance on the Republicans' part, because money was offered under President Obama, money was offered under President Biden. They refused the money, and if they did take the money, they allocated the money to other resources and to other places, saying that they did not need to update their systems and things like that or whatever. So the Republicans has totally, destroyed the country. And the sad part about it is they have the buy-in from poor people who don't understand that they have totally, voted against their own best interests, and that they are basically on the brink of bankrupt and faulty education. You mentioned a lot of things, so we're going to just unpack a lot.
That's cool.
One little bite at a time, one little chunk at a time. So, the people that rely on and all those stations will no longer have access to that information, and things like that, because the infrastructure has not been put in place for them to receive internet and land ethernets and fiber optics and things like that. And honestly, I think it's strategically, purposely designed that way, because you keep a person ignorant and you feed them what you want them to know, then they will vote in, always see that with the MAGA voters. They have voted against their own best interests, and they really haven't felt the brunt end of what is happening in the magnitude of those cuts. So they're going to receive cuts to Medicaid, they're going to receive cuts to healthcare, they're going to receive cuts to aid, just to give billionaires a tax break and things like that. And these Republicans push that big, beautiful bill, so they call it, for Trump to, give these Republicans, tax breaks. And so I'm saying MAGA, the constituents of MAGA really doesn't understand the magnitude of what they have done, and until it starts to really hit home for them. So when their services are no longer, when they are cut off, when they can no longer receive that food assistance, when they can no longer receive that healthcare assistance, then they're going to be in an uproar. But like they said, the shit hasn't hit the fan yet. So it hasn't hit the fan yet, and so they're not feeling it. So they don't. So, and you also mentioned dismantling of the Department of Education.
Right.
I mean, the dismantling of the Department of Education is not going to hurt educators. For one, people fail to realize is that educators are not paid through the Department of Education. Yes, we do receive money from the Department of Education for different programs and things like that, such as Title I, Title IX, ESOL, special education. Those are to provide services for the children who are in need, mental health services, all of that stuff through the Department of Education. But educators are funded, and the school system is funded from local municipalities, which means the local government, your tax dollars, pays teacher salaries. So when they say that they're going to dismantle the Department of Education, it's only going to hurt the people that need it the most, such as people with disabilities, children, learning disabilities, physical disabilities. Those are the people that this dismantling of the Department of Education is going to hurt, because when you put the things back, the oversight back into the state's hands, who's going to be the big brother? Who's going to make sure that we hold them accountable, that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing? So there's, if he's allowed to go through with the foolishness of dismantling the Department of Education, there's not going to be proper oversight. But the thing about it is, like I tell people all the time, there's billions and billions and billions of dollars in education. So they want access to that money. They want to control that money. So you have to follow that money to see who is actually the players and the keepers in this little arena, because a lot of people are opening charter schools. A lot of people are, doing this and doing that, and they have access to that money. So that's what they're after. They're after the access to that money. But will the dismantling of the Department of Education have some? Yes, and the majority no, because like I said, it's about the oversight that children are receiving, the services that they're receiving, such as, children who have an IEP, and that falls under IDEA, which is the Individuals Disability Education Act and things like that, or whatever. So those are the people that are going to be harmed the most. And so, like I said, it's about a game with them. You keep the people uneducated. them. So they want a workforce. They don't want professionals. They don't want people taking, over people's jobs and, things like that. They want a for real workforce. And by you restricting and taking away education, that's what you're doing. You're creating a workforce that is only a workforce, and that can never be anything greater than a workforce. So, my question to that is, if we're not allowing people to go to school and choose careers, what are you going to do when the bulk of the people? How are you going to respond? How are you going to act? So, it's easy to say, like I said, that they're dismantling the Department of Education, but in all actuality, in all reality, it will have an effect, but not a direct effect on most educators. But the children are the ones that are going to suffer the most. And a lot of people fail to realize is that, a lot of the children who have mental health issues are children, who have genetic, some type of genetic ties to those mental health issues, whether it be from an incestuous relationship, whether it be from, brother, cousin, brother, sister, cousin, brother, whatever, the incestuous type relationships, because they're out there. And then I was having a conversation, I was telling my friends that, people are, marrying their siblings, marrying uncles and things like that, but you have to petition the court in order to do it. But you would think that, you wouldn't do something like that because the bloodlines are so close, but they are doing it. And because they have done it and they're producing offspring, then you get, children with disabilities, you get children with mental issues, children who have, physical issues and, things like that. That's the population that is going to hurt the most. That's the population that's going to hurt the worst. And haven't been receiving and been directly impacted by it yet. But when they start to begin to be directly impacted, you're going to see a lot of pushback. You're going to see a lot of noise. You're going to see a lot of protests in regards to all of this. Once the people realize what is actually happening and what is actually taking place.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that are going on in that situation and all along those lines. The other thing that people have been talking about a lot in the news and a lot in the world is what's going on with these Epstein files. So I know you mentioned that was something you wanted to touch on and everything like that. So what is your thoughts on the release of them? I know that there had been some conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell and everything along those lines to see if she's going to testify, and I think she wants some form of immunity in order to give her testimony. But there's definitely been some conversations as to how that will look as well, and whether she'll get off. I mean, it can't get the person that was apparently the mastermind behind that, because apparently he committed suicide while he was in prison. But you also have to wonder how much of this is planned out and everything like that. Not trying to be an overt conspiracy theorist, but we do know that there were some interesting things like the time that the Commerce Secretary mysteriously went down, and there were questions about his blood wounds and everything like that. So there are people that have certain thoughts around the Epstein case as well. But I just don't know your thoughts around this. We do know that even though he claims that he never went to the island and everything, but I think there's documentation that he did go to the island, even though I think it was recently he claimed he had never been to the island at all. But what's your take on this whole Epstein thing? Is this going to be his version of Watergate?
Oh, this is a Trump gate. This is definitely a Trump gate. So I've already, put that out there. This is definitely a Trump gate. This man has done nothing but lie and been manipulative in, everything that he's done, everything that he's touched and things like that. And so he's put invites, but he never went to the island. So dude, you cannot possibly tell me that you received an invite to that island and you never went, which the flight logs say that you were there, but now you're claiming that you were not. So, my thing is with that, you cannot believe anything that's coming out of Trump's mouth. He came back and said that he has struck up a deal with Japan and things like that, or whatever. Japan said that was factually inaccurate. And, he said that he has struck up a deal with Japan and things like that, or whatever. Japan said that was factually inaccurate. And, he said that he has struck up a deal with Japan and things like that, or whatever. Japan said that was factually inaccurate. And, he said that he has struck up a deal with Japan and things like that, or whatever. Japan said that was factually inaccurate. And, he said that he has struck up a deal with Japan and things like that, or whatever. Japan said that was factually inaccurate. And, he said that he has struck up a deal with Japan and things like that, or whatever. Japan said that was factually inaccurate. And, he said that he has struck up a deal with Japan and things like that, or whatever. Japan said that was factually inaccurate. And, he said that he has struck up a deal with Japan and things like that, or whatever. Japan said that was factually inaccurate. And, he said that he has struck up a deal with Japan and things like that, or whatever. Japan said that was factually inaccurate. every time this man open mouth, it's nothing but lies that's being spewed, no truth, no accuracy, nothing, none of that. But I honestly believe he participated in the foolishness that was going on at the Epstein Island. I honestly believe that he was on that plane. I honestly believe that he did a lot of those things. And because you can't sit here and tell me that you didn't when you're the same person, Donald Trump, who was on national TV saying we'll let you do whatever, and you just take him and you just grab him by the pussy. You know what I'm saying? And so, he even tried to lie and say he didn't say that. But, everybody heard him and everybody has him on video, saying that and, stuff like that. So this is the same man that's claiming to not have been to Epstein Island and they weren't friends. But, we're still seeing multiple photos come out where he's in the photos with young girls. As a matter of fact, the photo that I saw on social media not long ago, a couple of days ago, was a young Pam Bondi, and she looked like she was underage at the time. Young Pam Bondi. So my thing is, there's no truth. You're spewing lies and you're spewing whatever to try to save your hind parts, because there's no truth in anything that you're saying.
No truth in that. And then the folks in the MAGA department are trying to spread vicious rumors and everything like that. I had read that they at one time were trying to say that Malaya, Obama's daughter and everything, had not graduated from Harvard, had been expelled, and even though that's a total lie, and she has got a successful career in entertainment as a filmmaker and a number of other things that she's got going on, but they tried to make it seem as if she was not a graduate of Harvard and all along those lines. And then there was also this rumor that Obama had been down to the island as well, and there was a picture of Obama with Anthony Bourdain. I think I mispronounced the name and everything, but he's that famous chef. He's just not Jeffrey Epstein. And they were, I think, in an African nation, but then it was been debunked, but they were trying to make it seem as if he had been at that island as well, even though it was actually the world famous chef that he was hanging out with. And I think they were trying to open up a restaurant or something in one of the other nations and all along those lines, but it's been totally debunked and everything. But they try to spread some of these vicious rumors.
Oh, of course, definitely, because they're trying to, at this point, they're trying to do damage control. But I think the damage, like President Obama said, stop trying to, use me as a deflection. He read the Epstein files, so he knows what's in them. Right. So, Trump is also trying to deny that Pam Bondi did not, indicate to him that his name is all through the files and, things like that or whatever. So, like I said, this man is a liar. You cannot believe anything that he says. Everything that, comes out of his mouth is a lie. And that's just the bottom line to it, period.
Yeah, he's definitely been out there telling all kinds of crazy lies and all along those lines. So definitely that's going on and in that space. And definitely that's interesting. Something else I saw that was interesting. I don't know if you saw this, but the basketball playoffs were held, and after the basketball playoffs were held, they're trying to figure out what's going on, because I think Tyler Halliburton was seriously injured and will probably be out for next year. But his teammate, who is from Canada by way of Cameroon, apparently is going to be running the the pace car for one of these races that is very popular out of Indianapolis. I think it's the Bricktown 400 or something like that in terms of its name and all in that way. But I just wanted your thoughts when some of these athletes go into other sports or other hobbies, even only for a minute. Like I said, I know he's going to be running the pace car and everything. And we've even had some former athletes, including some football and basketball players, that have had their own race cars. Like they have owned their own race cars. And I think in some cases they're even a race in the race cars. But in the case of Pascal, he's just going to be doing the pace car. So,
yeah, I mean, even with Bo Wallace winning the Indianapolis, what is it, 500 and, things like that or whatever. So he was the first black male to win, black male or female to win, the Indianapolis 500. So he won. And so I was reading an article saying that they changed the rules. So now they're trying to make sure that, anybody that comes after him or, decide that they want to be in the But once we master something, they always do
Yeah,
they always do the foolishness of taking and changing it and things like that or whatever to make it harder for us to attain those wins and to attain those victories. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second.
oh, no problem. Like I said, they're always trying to claim our victory and all along those lines, and try to take our victories and our things that we have done very well from us and all along those lines and everything. Speaking of victories and everything like that, I did hear that there was a shooting in New York City. That apparently part of the issue was that it was a former NFL player, and he had been dealing with some injuries and had not gotten the treatment that he needed. And all along those lines, he went and was apparently targeting the NFL, but went to the wrong location and targeted the wrong people and all along those lines. But that was a case that was in the news, so I didn't know if you had followed this at all, because we do know that gun violence and just violence in general is something that our society has haven't been dealing with for a while. I know that we've got here in Durham our two candidates that are running, Anjanae Bell, who is the daughter of a former mayor, as well as our current mayor, Leonardo Williams. And one of the things that they've been talking about is the whole issue of gang violence and everything like that. As a matter of fact, Leo, the current mayor, made a statement where he used the N-word and everything like that. And I don't think that it was the one that rhymes with chicker and everything like that, but I think it was another version of it. It might have been the one that was more common and all along those lines from some of our ancestors, but it did get him into a little bit of hot water there for a minute, because he was basically saying that the ones that are being abusive and all along those lines in terms of going into the gangs and kind of that activities were those that didn't have the proper training and the proper kind of home training and everything like that. So these were folks that had not gotten the proper way to be dealt with, if I understood the remark that he made. And it sounds like they were talking actually about shot spotter, which is a way that people can dictate or find bullets that are in your area and all along those lines. But he did make that statement, and if you follow Facebook, you'll see that some people were giving him a hard time for using that N-word in order to describe these young people.
I mean, I wouldn't describe him as that. He could have said anything other than that, because he's, feeding into the BS and the perpetuation of black males' derogatory names and things like that or whatever. And instead of focusing on what he needs to focus on, and the gun violence, and gun violence is not just a black thing. Gun violence is an American thing. It's a people thing. So, he could have actually come off a little better with, saying, young men and things like that we have to target and, put programs in place.
Yep, that makes sense.
About, gun safety. We can teach about, this, that, and the other, and things like that or whatever. But I guess he was trying to appease and appeal to a certain demographic, so that's why he said what he said. But I mean, I would probably be offended, and definitely wouldn't want to vote for him and things like that or whatever.
And this is a black man that said this, so sometimes we can be our worst enemy and all of those lines and everything like that. But I did have a question, because one of the things that has come up here locally, and I know it's come up in DC and New York and a number of other places, and you work with young folks on a regular basis, is what are we doing to make sure that kids have enough things to do, and is it the responsibility of society to make sure that they have enough things to do? Because I know even here we've got Wheels, which is kind of like a bumper car kind of environment and everything, and there's also a skate park, and there's a number of other things that are here. But our Boys and Girls Club that was in our hood of our neighborhood actually got moved closer to one of the strip malls. Well, not strip malls, but like one of the mega malls, which is not that convenient for the people that are in the hood to get to and all along those lines. So I just wondering, what are you seeing being done in DC and even in Houston and Louisiana to make sure that kids are engaged and are staying away from the bad elements, whether that's gangs or whether that's guns or whatever? Because this does seem to be something that is a major issue around the nation, particularly in the Black and brown community.
I mean, a lot of it starts with, at home and the parents engaging their children, and a lot, children. A lot of parents don't want to spend time with kids. That's why, like with even from the education side standpoint, when we call home, they don't answer the phone. They don't come. They don't, show up. Where they're yours. They're your responsibility now. They're at school. You handle it. So a lot of it is, lack of parental engagement. Because there are things to do. There's a lot of free stuff that goes on. I know the Smithsonian's are free. They have free concerts. It's a lot of things to do. You just see what you are interested in and where you want to go and where you want to spend your time. And a lot of it, like I said, has to do with the parents. Parents gotta invest in their children. They gotta spend time. They have to do those things in order for, children to feel a certain way and to feel like they're wanted and, cared for and needed. Because when you let children raise themselves, we see that that's not a positive thing. We see what happens. We see what's happening. We see all of that. So a lot of it, 99.9% of it falls within the parents and things like that, because we cannot request other people to, raise our children and place that responsibility on other people to demand them do things and things like that when you're not stepping up as a parent.
Yeah, that makes sense and everything. Speaking of stepping up as a parent, and it's my understanding, and I think that they are still hanging on, even though what I'm going to mention is a definite tragedy, and I don't know. I'm imagining it growing up in the Houston, Louisiana area that you had to deal with this as well and everything. But there was a major television show that used to be on the air called The Cosby Show, and another more recent one called The Residence. And the person that was behind that show in terms of being one of the stars passed away because of a riptide and everything along those lines. So I don't know all of the particulars, but Malcolm Jamal Warner was definitely known as Theo Huxtable and all in that ways. But I understand that he was possibly trying to rescue his daughter and everything like that while they were out together and all in that space. But everybody that I have talked to that know him said that he was a wonderful individual who was very active in the poetry community, had his own band where he played bass and all along those lines, and was definitely involved in a number of positive things, not just as a talent, but also as a, my understanding, somewhat of a community activist in Atlanta and possibly even out in LA as well and everything like that. But I just wondering your take on this tragedy, and was this one of them cases where it could be a conspiracy type deal where maybe he was saying too many things that could be taken as being not liked by some of those that are in positions of power? Because I understand that with his poetry and with some of the other things that he did not pull punches on some of the things that he talked about, and they might have been some coded messages, but there were messages in there that folks, if they were listening, could relate to and could translate and everything like that. So I just wanted your thoughts on Malcolm Jamal Warner and this tragedy and whether it might have been.
I mean, it was a great tragedy. Yeah, it was a great tragedy. The loss of him. He was a good one. He was down for the cause, he was down for the culture, he was down for the people and things like that or whatever. But, I tell people all the time, educate yourself about, the water and, the beaches and, things like that or whatever, because those riptides are real. And, people laugh at me all the time. They're like, Dr. Anthony, you're always. I said, you're absolutely correct. I am always at the beach, but I'm never in the water. For one, I'm not a great swimmer. For two, the currents and the water and the waves and things like that are extremely strong, and you can get drugged out to, out in the ocean, out to sea, wherever. And, when it's man versus nature, man loses every time. So, just understanding and things like that, the water can be very unpredictable. Using your sixth sense, you have that spirit of discernment and, things like that. And like I tell people all the time, there's a lot of things in the ocean that has not been discovered yet. And I don't want to be the one to discover it. You know what I'm saying? So, and to me, it's just like it's a, I was just telling a friend of mine, it's like it's a paradigm shift. Like, something major is about to happen. I said the energy is off. The people are off, everything is just off. And so we have to be, just diligent, and we have to, just be on our P's and Q's, because I just feel like something major is going to happen, and we just have to be ready for it or whatever, because it's just too much. It's too much stuff that's going on, and it's just been happening and things like that or whatever, for it to just be settled. So it's really unsettled, and like I said, the energy is definitely off, and I feel like something is going to happen, and things like that or whatever. So as far as his message is concerned, I haven't heard of people, like dissing his message and things like that or whatever. But anytime that Black people speak out against the wrongs and injustices of Black people, we're labeled as extremists and things like that or whatever, because people could label me the same way, because I speak out against injustices and wrongs and things towards the Black community and things like that or whatever, because we're the only that express our pain, express our hurt, our dislike, everything that we're going through. We're supposed to just take the shit and just live with it. We're supposed to allow them the opportunity to do what they're doing to us and not say a word, and things like that or whatever. Because when we say something, is, oh, you need to get over it, slavery is not here, oh, it's this, is that, or whatever. But the second that something happens to one of them and one of theirs, then they want unity.
Yep. That's
be behind their cause and things like that or whatever. So like I tell people, my show is a Black show. I'm a Black woman. I will always talk about Black concerns, Black issues, and things that is directly related to the Black community and how it affects us and my people. And if you don't like it, tough. You just don't like it. But I am going to always be down for the cause. I'm going to always be down for the culture. I'm going to always be down for the people. I'm going to always.
Yeah. No, and rightfully.
But again, when we speak out, we're labeled troublemakers.
Yep. And rightfully so. You've got to be down for the cause and all along those lines, anything like that. You mentioned earlier about being on those water trips, whether it's the ocean and all along those lines. And I know you've gone on a number of trips, including a number of cruises. And like I said, I've only been on one cruise, but even on that one cruise, I did have that nervous moment because, like I said, even if you are on the cruise, the boat is going to do what boats do in choppy weather, and definitely been having hot weather. But even the one time I went, which was around wintertime, it was near a New Year's Eve. I think it was the New Year's Eve 1 or 2 before the pandemic started, and all along those lines. And I remember thinking to myself that all it would take is, like you, I am not I'm more of a floater than a swimmer, because I'm definitely not a swimmer, even though I've got family members that are very good swimmers, including my dad and everything along those lines. But it was not a hobby or a interest that ever piqued me, and I never really got into it, and I probably should learn it at some point or another. But I just knew that I was thinking to myself that all it would take is me slipping off of this big boat and falling into that ocean, because I wouldn't have any the lifeguard or life jacket, and then that would be pretty much me, because there would be no way that I'd be able to swim to the shore or even swim to the boat and everything, because I have no swimming skills whatsoever. So it would take a minor miracle, as I was having those kind of negative thoughts as I was sitting on that boat. But I have thought about going on another cruise, and would like to go on cruises to places like Alaska and France and the African nations and a number of other things. I do need to do some more world travel. Maybe I got to start hanging out with Dr. Anthony more and all along those lines, so I can get some of these travel trips done, because I know that you're an avid traveler. But one of the things that I saw on the news recently, and we'll get ready to wrap up this particular episode of the All Around Show very shortly, is there was a major Carnival line. I think it was Carnival, but it was a major cruise line, and they were upset because they felt that some of the passengers, which were mostly African-American passengers, were being a little bit unruly and all along those lines, and they put out a complaint against those passengers. And I saw that on Facebook as well, where they were definitely complaining that these people had gotten on the boat and maybe had gotten a little ratchet, if I can use that expression, and everything, and they were not expecting that. And I don't think it was like one of the more famous ones, like the Tom Joyner, or one of the ones that is known for having minority passengers, but it was one that was a minority passenger boat, and I think the cruise itself was complaining that these folks were partying too much and being a little bit too much ratchety and all along those lines. But I just wondering your thoughts when those cruise lines are upset that people are maybe having too much fun on the boat, and if you ever been on a cruise where you even yourself were going like, y'all folks are having way too much fun.
Well, yes, I've been on one cruise, and I'm going to take a cruise after I come back from Ghana. I went to Australia, and we cruised around Australia and Lane, because I was on a boat with a bunch of old people and, you know, things like that or whatever. So it was not, you know, the cruise that I expected. But my thing is, you know, people are on vacation. They want to have fun, and people should be allowed to express themselves in a way that is, you know, how they express themselves. And when people are dancing and, you know, being them, I think that should be allowed. It shouldn't be, you know, frowned upon and looked down against. I mean, we can say Carnival known for being the party ship. Carnival is known for, you know, Black people going on there and experiencing, you know, good times and experiencing, you know, great adventures and things like that or whatever. So my thing is, you allow the Black people to come on, build your cruise ship, not build it physically, but build, you know, a reputation of being fun and things like that. But now that you have made, you know, the money off the backs of Blacks and things like that or whatever, now you want to say, oh, you know, people are being too ratchet. You know, if you other cruise lines they take, you know, so I just think with them, you know, putting things out there like that, Black people are going to start going to other cruise lines and, you know, enjoying, you know, the cruises over there and not spending their money where, you know, they're not wanted anymore. I mean, because we can take the Turkey Leg Hut, for example, in Houston. The Turkey Leg Hut was a Black-owned business. And, you know, they built their reputation off of catering to Black people. Just started going, oh, you couldn't dress like this, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So now, needless to say, I think they're out of business and things like that or whatever. So, you know, my thing is, you can't shit on the people who have supported you and who have put you in the position that you're in the position that you're in, and, you know, things like that or whatever. So, you know, so what if people don't like people dancing? They don't like our culture in the first place. They don't like the way we dance. They don't like the way we look, and they're in our behavior and what we're doing. And then that, to me, right there is another way that they're policing Black people fun and how they're, you know, able to express themselves.
Yep, well, no doubt about that. Well, it looks like the clock on the wall says it's about time to end this particular episode, and all along those lines, so we're going to wrap it up and everything like that. But I know that we're trying to build up the listenership on this particular podcast and everything like that. So I know we're trying to get more and more people to watch, and everything like that is definitely climbing up. And I do know that some of the episodes are also getting views on TikTok, because even after the show, they are putting them up on TikTok shorts and all along those lines. So TikTok is now also becoming another venue that people are watching the various pod TV shows at, in addition to Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and a number of the other sources as well. So just let folks know that they can also see some of the shorts on TikTok. It's not the full show, because I don't think TikTok does allow you to do the full show.
I think 3 minutes, unless we can.
I'm sorry, say what?
If I'm not mistaken. But we haven't done the live yet, so I am, you know, officially taking a break from social media. But right now, I just need a break, and then I'll come back hot and heavy, strong.
Yeah, we can do maybe some lives on TikTok and all along those lines. Yes. So that'll be fun, and we can definitely get back to doing some lives on Instagram as well, because like I said before, I was doing some of those for you off of my account and everything like that. But we can get back to doing those after the vacation as well. But right now, let's get on out of here. I'm getting ready to play our intro, outro, and all along those lines, and then we'll be back in next week.
Knock on the Wall says that's all. Make sure you guys tune in every Monday night at 6 p.m., 6 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. And we're looking forward to having you guys tune into the show. And make sure you click like and share.
Yep, exactly. Deuces.
What's up? Welcome to the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves.
Okay.
I was trying to give it some time so I could find a cut point and everything. That's why I had it going for a
No,
couple of minutes.
you're fine. I was about to ask, can we break? I need to make some phone calls, and can we
Yeah,
just
we
yeah,
can
come
take a
back
break.
at 6?
We can come back at 6, and we can even come back. I can actually create
Some
another
people just
link.
tell that they're on my. Yeah,
Yeah,
we can just do another link.
I'll
Because
do
people
another
just
link.
say,
I'll end this one and I'll edit this part out. But yeah, we can come back at 6.
okay, sounds good.
All right.
All right, bye.